Okay, sleight of mouth in the shortest possible amount of time. You know, please, we really need, good instruction. We need good, committed, focused, real teaching of this stuff. All right, pattern 1, intent. Now, when someone says intent, what I'm thinking about in terms of process is it's a timeline issue. If you want to, I think let's pull in the timeline. It's a tool we've developed. Let's use it. So intent is basically related to what Aristotle refers to as the precipitating cause. Okay, look it up in Diltz's book. You're moving back on the timeline. So just say, well, what is your intent? What the fuck is intent, man? You know, well, so in terms of process, if you're moving back on the timeline to you find sort of the precipitating cause or the beginning moment where this this sequence started to take life. What happens? You know, when you move it back, and you can say, well, walk me back, run the tape backward, run the tape forward. So what happens when we run the tape backward? What does it look like when it goes backwards? Or when we get back to that precipitating moment, what does it look like as it starts to expand forward? I mean, does intent really exist? I mean, that's an interesting concept. Philosophically, that's interesting. I don't know if there's such a thing as intent. You know, or is intent something like the unfolding of the life pattern? Based on what? I don't know. Intention. What the fuck is intention? I'm really curious about that. Somebody, please explain to me. If you know, if you can tell me what intention is. What is intention? And explain it in non-circular terms, you get a gold star. 2, what are the assumptions about cause-effect or complex equivalence relationships? Or kind of like a belief, you know, A causes B, A is equal to B. Sounds to me like we're kind of talking about analogies and this equals that, you know, so you expressing yourself that way equals dissing maps or something. Okay, whatever, you figure out the equal sign, whatever's like A equals B, B equals A. Are these commutative? I mean, I don't know if we're talking about commutative or non-commutative mathematics. If A equals B, does that mean B equals A? Go figure. Chunking down. Okay, remember I did that thing on thinking on 3 logical levels? The middle logical level, always ask, what is an example of this? What is an example of this? All right? Chunking down. Chunking down has a lot to do with evidence, documentation, citations, protocols. So, you know, chunking down, say, you know, well, give me a piece of this. Give me a little nugget of, you know, where you're building your truths from. Like, you know, all right, how did you arrive at that? But how did you arrive at that? Not necessarily in like sort of your timeline, but what are the little component pieces of the mosaic? Chunking up. All right, remember that one? We did another video on that. What is this an example of? What higher order universe does this belong to? So, if you said, great, you know, we're having this thing, we're all in this thing right now, you know, we're all like all stewed up. Well, what is that an example of? Can you give me a clear idea in your mind what this is an example of? Any discussion plane we're on, if we have the slightest bit of competence in NLP, and I think that is an unresolved question right now, maybe we don't, you know, because I don't know if anybody's really able to even define what competence is in NLP. I have never heard a good satisfying definition. So what is that an example of? All right, you know, what is what I just said an example of? I just made a provocative statement. Well, what is that an example of? Provocative statements? Personal opinions? I don't know. What is that an example of? 5. This is the one we have kind of been flaking out on in a bad way. Where's my map? 5 is the opposite of this. We've been like stuck, man. We've been like stuck on like intent. What's your intent? God damn it, motherfucker, what's your intent? Oh, please. You know, over here, but it's like, well, consequence. What's the other side of that? Like, what's the consequence of doing that? What if we just said, hey, just cram that intent. We're not going to even go on intent. I just want to know about your consequences. What is the consequences of having this discussion? What is the consequence of making this post? What is the consequence, okay, of adopting this belief? That's real cool because we're back on this kind of timeline idea. So what happens further down the timeline, okay, if you start over here like in intent land, like way back there on the other side of the timeline, what if we take that timeline way forward, okay? So like, 5 steps down the chess game, how does that change the game? Where does that set of potential consequences, how many potential consequences? That's where what is called scenario analysis and scenario thinking, very big in the corporate world, okay? They don't really go into intent, they're looking at consequences. We haven't said anything about consequences. We haven't gone near consequences, It's like some kind of like weird family secret or something.